Hello everyone, this is Grandmaster Damian Lemos here for iChess.net and welcome to this new masterclass where we'll be covering endgames and pre-endgames as well. This is a quick introduction before we start with the actual videos and material. I want to tell you what you'll find on this course. The idea is, my idea was to give you guys tools to play an endgame or a pre-endgame successfully. Endgame-wise, there's a lot of information out there. If I had to analyze all the possible endgames one by one, I would need like 100 or 200 hours to do so. So, as I was saying, my idea was to analyze endgames from the practical point of view. So here you'll find a lot of examples, real games, of course, the thinking process behind each endgame, and you'll also find a special chapter where we talk about rook endgames. We also have pawn endgames, queens, minor pieces endgames, but as you probably know, rook endgames are the most difficult out there, so I think they deserve an extra chapter. So that is what you'll find on this DVD. A lot of endgames, but from the practical point of view. And hopefully this is going to help you be a better endgame player. So with this introduction, now we are ready to start our work, and we can also start with chapter 1. So thank you, and I hope you enjoy my work. Okay, so we continue working on endgames, and now we'll see Reddy against Holland. You'll find this game on the PGN files, so let's see what we have. The opening will move it quickly. We have a Queen's Gambit declined. This game is from 1920, and I was going to say Black plays an old line from the Queen's Gambit. However, nowadays you can find this line as well. Black takes on c4, bishop takes, and he plays with knight d5. The idea is to trade a couple of pieces off, and then, okay, here he takes on c3, we take with the rook, and he plays with e5. Hopefully he'll find some space for his bishop on c8. So okay, here white plays queen c2, natural move, and e4. Believe it or not, this move is already connected to the endgame. He's winning space in the center, but let's take a look at this bishop, bishop c8. It is fair to say this bishop is not the best bishop for black. It would be much better if he had a bishop on d6. It would have more diagonals, and if we go back a couple of moves, we can tell bishop c8 is definitely black's worst bishop, crashing into the pawn chain. So usually he tries b6, bishop b7, or taking on c4 followed by b5. Somehow black tries improving bishop c8 situation. So knight takes, rook takes, e5, white plays queen c2. This e4 move, he wins space as I was saying, but he keeps on placing pawns on light squares. That is making bishop c8 a bad bishop, not only for the middle game, but potentially for an endgame as well. Here we attack the pawn on e4. He cannot play f5 because the king is under attack. Rook e8 might be an option. However, here I can play f3 and try attacking on f7. It's like we have too many pieces attacking there, so rook e8 is not recommended. It is much better to keep the rook on f8 for the time being. Therefore, black defends e4 with knight f6. he's also trying to play knight d5 one day. So we were talking about bishop c8 as a bad bishop. We can also say bishop c4 happens to be a good bishop for us. Bishop c1, if we still had that bishop there, would be a terrible bishop for us, crashing into the pawn chain. But we are lucky that the bishop is gone, and the remaining bishop is a good one. So white, okay, he decides to play bishop b3. We get out of this tricky moves, and why not? We can try advancing on the queen side with rook c5, knight c4. We have ideas. He plays bishop f5, and another great move by white. And I say great because we take the chance to advance our f-pawn. He cannot take en passant because that bishop f5 is hanging, and we keep on placing pawns on dark squares. That is making bishop b3 an excellent bishop. We can just in case play a3 too. But you get the concept. I mean, maybe this move I wouldn't play because suppose, okay, he plays a6. This I wouldn't play because then I'm giving him reasons to attack on the king side. But this, the concept of placing my pawns on dark squares, I love it because then bishop b3 is an excellent piece. So okay, f4, he plays rook f d8. We can see he's trying to play knight to d5. We play rook f c1. It is visible that our game is going to be on the queen side. And, well, king side wise, we have good defense. We might attack there as well. And knight to d5. Okay, he's attacking the pawn on e3. He's also attacking the rook on c3. Bishop takes d5 is not only good, but it's also the only move we have. Otherwise, if we move the rook, he takes on e3. So, we were saying this bishop was good, true, but this trade is clearly favoring us, because first of all, that position is kind of closed, and in closed positions we know knights are better than bishops, and second, no matter how he retakes, bishop f5 remains a bad piece. Black takes with the rook on d5, this makes a lot of sense. This is a bad idea because we have full control of the c-file. We can start with a move like rook c7. So this is better. White after rook takes d5. I'm not saying he's winning, but his positional advantage cannot be underestimated. And this bishop, as we'll see, has no improvement. So let's see how the game continues. Knight f1. Here another mistake by black. The move itself, the engines say it's okay for black, but look at this. Not only his pawns, but his pieces are also on light squares. So this bishop is basically another pawn in this position. As black, I guess, I mean, this is not even a threat because the bishop is protected, so maybe h6, or just moving rook a8, bringing the rook into the game makes much more sense. After this, what white is going to do is trade most of his pieces off, and then he'll play an endgame with the knight against the bishop. Why? Because we know bishop f5 is another pawn, what we call a tall pawn. So let's see how the game continues. Rook a d8. This, well, we might consider taking on f5 if we make enough damage to his king side, but queen e6 defends it all. Queen a4. Now, tough decision for black. He has to play a6, and, well, the concept continues. Now we have officially the worst bishop ever on f5. White little by little improves his position. Black remains passive, queen b4. Our game, as you can probably notice, is on dark squares. Okay, queen e7. He doesn't want to move the b7 pawn because then c6 is falling. So queen e7, white plays queen b6, fixing this queenside pawn structure. Also, once we move the queen, we can consider trading on d5. Now we are under a pin. Queen b6, he plays bishop c8, and now the trade begins. Rook takes, he has to take with the rook. Pawn takes is way too passive to be good. Rook c7, and we are getting closer, so he takes with the rook. Rook c5, this is pretty straightforward, and here black played f5. The move itself makes sense in this position because otherwise, after all the trades, e4 might be a target. So instead of defending this way, he prefers playing f5. Knight to e2. We continue improving our pieces. Maybe we can take on d5, but this is tricky, because if he now takes on c5, we get the trade anyway. Both queen takes or pawn takes are interesting. The thing is, we have a square on d4 for our knight, and this bishop, as usual, is not doing much to help. If we win this game, it's because of dark squares. So this knight e2, it's like our kingside activity is done already. Now we go to the queenside. He played bishop e6. White now puts his pawns on dark squares. The idea of this is to stop something like queen h4. Black cannot exploit our weaknesses because he has the pawn on f5, so he plays h6, and now we attack the rook on d5. He's got to make a decision here, and he trades. If he plays rook d7 or rook d8, he's giving us a lot of room for improvement, and this is getting worse and worse for black. So he decides to take on c5. White takes with the queen. I was going to say black. White takes, queen takes. He has to, otherwise queen e5 check. Otherwise we keep on free rolling for a win here. So he takes, d takes c5, and here we have this endgame, which looks drawish, but we have the positional advantage. We were smelling this since middle game, and now we are here in this superior endgame. But bishop for him, a6, b7, c6, we even have holes, d6, b6. Not only for our knight, the king can also go there. So all this stuff, we can try looking at this since we enter the middle game. I mean, it's not a coincidence that white chose to play and reach this position. With that said, when you have a bishop, even if it's bishop e6, which is a bad bishop, as black, the best card you can play is activity. So I would go for a move like this. And then I'll see how to continue, but I would like to open lines as soon as possible. h5 would be a terrible mistake because I can even play h4, and then queenside is basically for white. So let's see how black played. He played king f6, makes sense, bringing the king to the center, king f2. We do the same as white. I don't like this move at all. He keeps on placing pawns on light squares, king e1. Now, since the king is on f6, white doesn't waste tempo playing h4. If he had the king here, then, well, we have to be careful with stuff like this. Maybe he plays h4, king h5, king g4. Now he's far away from achieving that, so we just play king e1, bishop f7, king d2. Tough to believe black lost this game. It really looks drawish, but it's never easy, especially when you have this positional disadvantage. Knight to a4, king d5. He got the center first, but we can slowly remove this king from d5 because we completely dominate on dark squares. Okay, he plays a5, a3, as you probably guess. Now he moves the bishop, takes. If he plays bishop f7 or bishop e6, well, bishop e6 is terrible luck for black because knight b6 is checkmate, and this, well, I can just play here, king e6, and then the king enters d4. If you see the starting position of this endgame and now you see this position, you can appreciate White's plan was pretty straightforward. There's nothing black can do to stop this. So what happened in the game is that black played king e6 instead of bishop f7, white plays king d4, and now he plays the weak king e7. He clearly forgot about king e5, and this is making things even easier for white. Had he played something like this, well, we can still go for variations like this. He cannot really stop our knight entering his position. It's either this or even a5 and b7. There's no way he protects b7. Maybe he can drive the king to c7, something like this, but then our king enters the king side. So, a game where his bishop is completely useless. Now we'll see how white won this. Knight b6, bishop e6. Well, he's trying to resist here, but he's in some sort of sux1. We play h3, and now if he moves the bishop, we can play knight c8. And if he plays bishop d7, I can just take plus king f6. So yeah, h3. He plays this move. The other waiting move he can play is king f7, but well, whatever he plays, he's giving us a reason to enter his position. So bishop b3, check, knight d6, now b7 is in trouble, and if this, white simply wins with king f6. The game was king e7, knight takes, now this is resignable for black, bishop e6. Okay, the rest is so simple. Black doesn't have any counterplay, so in this position after knight takes b5, he resigns. We can just advance our c-pawn and then we go after his kingside pawns. Well, white, the game wasn't easy, but I can tell that starting from move, let's say, once we have this position where we play f4 and black plays knight to d5, bishop takes, starting with this trade, then white made very good moves to improve his position and black played some mistakes, one of them being this move, super passive, making his bishop even worse, and also black, he made the mistake of trading too much. The endgame with knight against bishop, I'm not saying is 100% win for white, but the truth is, if someone wins here, it's white, and worst case scenario, it is a draw. So these endgames, they have a lot of value, and that is why we have to study them. So that's all for this video. I hope you found this useful, hope you could learn something, and of course, I want to see you guys in my next chapters. Thank you.